Oh, there it is. Okay. We stand at the edge of the woods, early on a Saturday morning in late September. The air is just slightly crisp, as if it's trying to start a rumor that autumn is just around the corner. And the hints of red and orange and gold in the leaves of some of the trees seem to be doing their best to try to spread that rumor. We're here because we have to be here. The biology class we're taking requires this field trip. Every teacher is required to organize it, every student is required to attend it, and there's a quiz that every teacher is required to give following it. For our class, the quiz will be given on Monday. The focus of the field trip is to learn about 5 trees that happen to be found in these woods. For each of the trees, we need to learn 6 different characteristics, so 30 pieces of information altogether. Yesterday in class, the teacher gave us a chart with 5 rows, 1 for each of the trees, and 6 columns, 1 for each of the characteristics. And our job today on the field trip is to fill in the chart. At exactly 9:30, we enter the woods. The teacher takes us directly to each of the 5 trees, points out specifically the characteristics that we're supposed to learn, and tells us precisely what to write down in the chart. Of course, the teacher has used this chart for years now. And so several of us went online last night and Googled it and got an image to show up with the chart completely filled in. So our charts are already filled in, and we don't have to pay attention to anything that's currently going on this field trip. In fact, realistically, there's nothing happening on this field trip that could not have been accomplished by a quick Google search. We were told to block out an hour for the field trip, but after 45 minutes, we visited all the trees, and everybody's chart is now filled in. And so we leave the woods. We spend Sunday memorizing the chart, and the quiz on Monday is actually pretty easy. At the end of the semester, we have to re-memorize the chart because 5 similar questions are going to be on the final exam. Or we stand at the edge of the woods early on a Saturday morning in late September. The air is just slightly crisp, as if it's trying to start a rumor that autumn is just around the corner. And the hints of red and orange and gold in the leaves of some of the trees seem to be doing their best to try to spread the rumor. We're here because we have to be here. The biology class we're taking requires this field trip. Every teacher is required to organize it, every student is required to attend it, and there's a quiz that every teacher has to give following it. We don't know when the quiz is going to be given to our class. The focus of the field trip is to learn about 5 trees that happen to be found in these woods. For each of the trees, there are 6 characteristics that we need to learn, so a total of 30 pieces of information. Our teacher gave us a list of the 30 characteristics, but we have no clue which of the characteristics goes with which of the trees. In fact, we weren't even told which trees we're looking for. Instead, what our teacher did is open 30 blank documents online, 1 for each of the characteristics, and our job today is to take as many photos as we can that we think are of trees that have these characteristics and upload them into the corresponding documents. At around 9:30, we enter the woods. The teacher follows us as we make our way up and down the trails, asking us questions as we take the different photos, but not really giving us any concrete information about whether the characteristics are there or whether we found the right trees. As a side note, as students, we have no idea that it's the same quiz given to all of the classes regardless of who the teacher is. So we don't know whether or not the chart the other class got is actually going to be useful. After about 90 minutes of wandering through the woods, We all meet at one of the picnic shelters. We were asked to bring a lunch, and during lunch there's some casual conversation between the students and among the teacher and the students. It's obvious from these conversations that this class is starting to become a community. In the few weeks we've known each other, we've gotten to know one another as people, not just as classmates, which has made today's field trip not only more enjoyable, but more productive. Eventually, we get around to opening up the documents and staring at the photos that are now there, discussing whether or not this tree actually has that characteristic. This could not have been done by a quick Google search. Lunch takes about an hour, and we're not finished looking through the documents yet. So we're asked to look at the remaining documents over the weekend, and we'll finish up the conversation on Monday. Monday in class, we're finally told which 5 trees we should focus on for the sake of the quiz, but we still don't know when the quiz is going to be given. As it turns out, the quiz is given on Friday, and those of us who have looked at the information a little bit each day find it to be pretty easy. At the end of the semester on the final exam, there's an essay question where we are given photos of 2 trees, neither of which was on that list of 5 from the field trip, and we're asked to compare and contrast the characteristics. Many teachers want to teach the first class. No frills, just give them the information, have them know it. After all, that's the information that's going to be on the quiz. That's the information that's going to be on the test that's sent by the state at the end of the year. And the results of those quizzes and that test, how well the students do on those, will comprise 50% of the score that the teacher gets on their evaluation at the end of the year. For non-tenured teachers, how well the students do on those quizzes and that test can have a significant impact on whether or not they get rehired. Many students want to take the first class. Just give me the information and I'll give it back to you. No thinking required. After all, I need this class to graduate, so let's focus on the important things, shall we? My grade? Please, because I don't care about these trees. In fact, realistically, I would prefer just to look up all the information online, and I'll show up for the quizzes. And the only reason I'll show up for the quizzes is so that you know that I took the quiz and not Siri. If we're honest about it, the first class is easier, both for the teacher and for the students. And since the grades are fine, the scores are fine, and they're the only thing that matter, why should we change? We've fallen into the trap. We ask nice, neat questions that have nice, neat answers, questions that can be asked and graded by a computer so that the computer produces nice, neat data showing that we're doing a good job. The problem with this model of education should be obvious, but for whatever reason, it's not. At least not until you compare what education expects with what the rest of the world expects. The rest of the world expects far more than just facts and basic skills. The rest of the world asks questions that Siri simply can't answer. The rest of the world expects deep understanding to the point that we can creatively use the facts and skills and think creatively and think critically to answer questions the likes of which we've never seen before. Questions that didn't even exist until just recently or just now. In fact, a study published in 2016 reported that employers in business and industry are having difficulty finding qualified candidates to fill positions in their companies. Because while recent graduates are very adept at memorizing things and doing what they're told, they are missing many, if not all, of the following abilities. The ability to think critically, to answer authentic problems, to communicate verbally, to communicate in writing, to pay attention to detail, and to take accountability for their own work. These are not skills that you can quickly look up online, and they're certainly not the skills that are checked on standardized tests. For the most part, not even the AP tests. Now, if we're going to help our kids get better at acquiring these skills, we're going to have to help them with something that is far more difficult, but far more valuable. We're going to need to help them get better at being human, truly human. And it's the second class, the one that asks the kids to wander and wonder and to question and collaborate and to seek and to synthesize. It's the second class that will help the kids acquire and practice those skills. Our students need to be taking the second class. And so we need to stop making excuses and start teaching the second class. We need to go into the woods with the students and talk with them and learn with them and work with them and build relationships with them. Not just because they need the skills, but if we're honest about it, we need the practice. And please don't tell me that this can't be done, because I know it can. I've seen it done in English and science and social studies and art. And if you've been in my classroom, you know it can be done in mathematics. Without losing sight of what we're teaching, we need to know who we're teaching. We stand at the edge of our classroom early on a Monday morning in the middle of August. The summer sun outside beckons us to just turn around, to go back to July, to go back to the ball fields and the amusement parks, or even to the woods. But we have promises to keep. How we choose to keep those promises is up to us. Will we help our students get better and more successful at school? Or will we take on the real challenge and help prepare them for tomorrow, regardless of what it brings? Both can be accomplished by a field trip to the woods. It's up to us to make the trip worthwhile. Thank you.